Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Norm's Friends. I'm David B., the Readings Guy, 603-404-9338. And lucky me, today I have a special guest, my state rep, Kristine. Sorry about that, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
She made me nervous. Kristine Perez.
Correct.
Kristine.
Yes.
Yes. Introduce yourself. Let everyone know who you are.
Well, I am Kristine Perez. I am a retired nurse who never thought in a million years I would be a state rep. But during COVID, I spent a lot of time trying to help out parents at school board meetings and a lot of the things that were going on. And last May, a big group of parents said, come on, run for state rep and speak for us. And I talked it over with my husband, and we said, okay. And they went out and they, talked me up, held signs for me. I live in a 55 community. My neighbors, who I keep up to date on what's going on, they all financed me. I never asked for a penny. And who would have known? I won the primary, and I won in November. So here I am. I'm a state rep from Londonderry, New Hampshire.
Good for you. First time running, by the way?
First time running for anything.
Congratulations. Good for you. So we'll come back to you, but I have a nice inspirational quote, some fun facts. So we'll start with the quote. Instead of worrying about what you cannot control, shift your energy to what you can create. And that is Roy T. Bennett, The Light in the Heart. I don't have a clue who he is, but I like his quotes because, they're nice. So there you have it with that. And seeing as tomorrow, we all know I'm going to Europe, I'm flying. So today, the interesting facts is going to be about jets and airplanes. All right. So let's go. There's 5 of them today. I usually take my time, but very interesting. I want to
Take your time.
All right. First fun fact today. The wings of the airplane are just one component of flight. There are actually 4 forces of flight that push the plane up, down, forward, or slow it down. These 4 forces of flight are lift, thrust, drag, and weight. You can imagine what a plane weighs. And get this. How's this? You hear everybody knows this that's been on a plane. The oxygen in an airplane's emergency oxygen max lasts for only about 15 minutes. Then what do you do?
Right.
When I saw that, I saw, they tell you, put your oxygen, and then what happens after 15 minutes? Why bother?
I didn't know that.
Me either. All right, here's another one. English is the international language of flight. It used to be of this country too, but all flight controllers and all commercial pilots who fly on the international flights are required to speak English. See that? That's kind of interesting. I like that fact.
Yeah, I do too.
All right, this is interesting. Most pilots and co-pilots on major airlines are not allowed to eat the same food to avoid the possibility of food poisoning sickening the entire flight crew. So that's probably, I like that one. And finally, the last one is this is really fun. Get this one. The Boeing 767 sucks in enough air through its engines to fill a Goodyear blimp in 7 seconds.
Wow. Wow.
So there you have it. Also today, anybody who calls in, if you want a reading, yes or no question only. We're going to do them real quick because I'm sure Kristine's got a ton of info she wants to fill us in on. She can enlighten us about what's going on up in Concord. And with saying that, Kristine, tell us what's going on up in Concord. What's been happening?
Well, I'm going to tell you that we get paid $100 a year. And it is a full-time job. It is it's much busier than I ever thought it was going to be. I'm up in Concord a lot more. So I asked for you're allowed to ask for 3 different committees. So I asked for education, I asked for the voter integrity or whatever, election law, and I asked for I forget what the other, Health and Human Services, because I was a nurse for 42 years. I got judiciary.
Wow.
Which is a far cry from what I asked for. But I have a friend of mine who also won for the first time in Londonderry, and we commute. He seems to think that somebody was watching out for me, and I was put in the right committee because we handled all of the abortion bills, and I'll get into that a little bit later. And so, as I say, it takes up a lot more. You have to go through. In our committee, we had 47 bills.
Wow.
And that doesn't seem like many.
But 47 over in how much time?
Well, you have to have them all done by, the process is that you have a hearing for each bill. I was in hearings today I'll tell you what that is. And they can last anywhere from 15 minutes to 4 hours. The hearings that they had yesterday on a bill lasted about 7 hours.
Wow.
But it wasn't in my committee, fortunately. But so we had 47 bills, and we started in January. And by April, I believe it was the 16th, they all had to either you send them before the entire House, you kill the bill, you retain the bill and say it needs more work, or that's it, you decide. So we spent a lot of time on bills. So it goes from there, and the bills that you want to go to before the entire 400. Let me tell you that it is a very slim majority that the Republicans have right now. I believe we are only up by 4, and that's only because 2 Democrats resigned. Once they have the elections for them, and they will win. One's in Nashua, and I forget what the other one is. We will only be up by 2. So it's a big guessing game on who's going to show up. Who's going to show up? So it's very important that you show up. So then you have all these committees, and all these bills have to go through the House. And the ones that aren't put on the table are done over here. And then they have to go through the House, and then from the House they go to the Senate. So let me talk to you about some of the bills that I'm happy about. The Republicans, with help from the Democrats, because they conceal carry too, we were able to pass all the bills, or kill all the bills that were going to hurt the Second Amendment.
Yay.
And pass all the bills that were going to help the Second Amendment.
Good.
So that was huge, huge. One of the saddest things, well, I'll tell you, we also did a tremendous amount of bills in my committee that protected landlords, and that was huge, especially here in Manchester. There were bills that came through my committee that said, well, in New Hampshire, if you have a lease, at the end of that year lease, your lease really doesn't expire. It goes from that to being a month by month. So it's very difficult for landlords to get people out of their apartments. But we got rid of all the bills that were going to make it more difficult for landlords. And I understand we have a huge housing crisis here. I do understand that. But penalizing landlords who own property is not the way to cure that, at least in my opinion.
I agree, it isn't.
So another thing, one of the biggest bills that we lost, and it was because we didn't have enough Republicans showing up, and we also had a group of Republicans that voted against it. But the Speaker of the House, Sherm Packard, had put a bill in back in September, House Bill 10, and it was the Parents' Rights Bill. And it was worked on and tweaked, and it was a beautiful bill. Now, why do we need a Parents' Rights Bill? I don't get that. Why do we need a parent's right? I was a parent. I'm a parent. Why do we need that? But we do, because of everything going on. That bill failed.
Wow.
And it was a sad day for the state of New Hampshire. Thankfully, the Senate also put in a bill. Now, in the Senate, there are 14 Republicans and 10 Democrats. So we have a little bigger play there. I'm a Republican, by the way, and I'm a strong conservative. So, and if you don't
Good
like
for
what
you.
I'm saying, there's nothing I can tell you. So the Senate did have a parents' rights bill. It was not as good as the House bill. It didn't cover a lot of things that were really necessary, okay? But that bill was had its hearing yesterday at the State House, and they had it in the main place, you know, where 400 people sit instead of in a small committee room, because there were probably over 200 people there.
Wow.
And unfortunately, the people who speak against it made it all about, just like they did with the House parental rights, they make it all about a small group of people. They make it all about the gay and lesbian and trans community, which this bill is not about. And the big thing that they make it about is that these children in elementary school should be allowed to, you know, have changed their name, change their pronoun in school, and their parents have no right to know about it.
You know, that blows me away, because you're responsible for your child until it's 18 years of age. So that's what blows me away.
Well, they keep saying that parents, children will be abused if they go, if the school lets the parents know that this 9-year-old girl wants to be a boy, and the parents will abuse him.
Right, and that the 9-year-old girl only wants to be a boy after the teacher and the counselors keep telling her that's what she wants.
It is pushed.
pathetic.
It's
pathetic.
it is pushed. I believe it is pushed, and they're trying to make it so, you know, the parents have a right to know. Now, kids get abused for all different reasons. You know, let's not just make it about this 0.03%. And what child at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 has enough experience in life to decide that they want to change their
Right.
gender identity? Their gender, and I purposely do not say sex, because there are only 2 sexes in the world.
That's exactly
There are
right.
many anomalies, and they have a different word for them now, but they're anomalies, and I remember them when I was in nursing school back in the late 60s. Yes, sometimes, what's the first thing you ask when somebody has a baby?
Boy or girl.
Right, well, sometimes they don't know because of anomalies. So there are anomalies. Those anomalies cannot bear children, and you cannot self-breed. Okay, you can't breed
I don't
by
need to
yourself.
laugh, right.
Okay, but anyway, they make it all about them, and there was a huge community. So I went up to the State House yesterday. I had no intentions of speaking, and my husband can attest to that, because usually I make my speeches ahead of time and have him review them. But I couldn't stand it anymore. So I stood up and I said, I'm Kristine Perez. I'm from Londonderry. I was first-time rep. I was put here by parents. They asked me to speak, and this bill is about all the parents and all the kids, and not a select few. And I said, and I used this expression in another committee meeting that I was in. I said, a wise grandfather once told me
Yeah.
that you cannot provide 100% of equity for 100% of the people 100% of the time.
That's exactly true.
But we have an obligation to provide safety for our youth.
Yeah.
So we're going to see where that bill goes. That was in hearing, I believe, for 6 to 7 hours yesterday. It was incredible. But then, last night, I went to see a young woman named Chloe Cole. And you should look her up online if you have a chance. So she's a young woman. She's 18 years old. She's from California. And when she was 12 and 13, She was having trouble with her identity. Maybe she was a tomboy. You can't be a tomboy anymore. Okay.
We had them when I was growing up.
I know. So she felt that she went on social media, and that had a big influence on her. And she went to her parents at age 13 and said, I want to be your third son. She had 2 older brothers. And they supported her, and she went into counseling. But she said, in hindsight, they didn't counsel me. They just moved me forward.
Yeah.
So at age 13, she started taking puberty blockers, which she told us that made her very sad and very depressed, and got scared. And she also started with testosterone shots. And the first thing that happened is her voice dropped. She started developing, more musculature in the shoulders. Her hips started losing the fat in her hips. And she started wearing a binder for her breasts. And it's very different than a sports bra. These are so tight and so binding that she actually distorted some of her ribs because she was growing. So she distorted. And she's from the center of California, said it was hot, so didn't want to wear it. At age 15, she had a bilateral mastectomy. 15 years old. Now,
Sad.
Did they tell her that she would possibly have a tremendous amount of nerve damage, that she would never get away? Did they tell her? Her whole thing about having a mastectomy is she wanted to be able to take off her shirt like the boys do and walk around. Did they tell her that the grafts were going to might have trouble with the grafts? Did they tell her that her female organs were going to atrophy? None of this was told to her. So she was a junior in high school, and she was in a psychology class, and they were talking about the development of children, different ages and everything. And she realized that when she was 13, she did not have the mindset or the knowledge or the development to know to do something this
You
for
don't.
herself.
At 13, I mean, you're just starting off.
And what a horrible age that is. Junior high school or middle school for girls is horrible. She said her
I
only...
think it's horrible for everyone.
I do. She said her only support through this whole thing was the social media. And she said, and then she is transitioning now. And of course, the whole transgender world is against her.
Naturally.
But she's in a group. She said there are thousands of us all out there that have made the mistake. Now, does she know if she will ever be able to have children? She doesn't know. Her voice is still low, but she knows she made a mistake. And she did actually speak at the hearing yesterday.
Good for her.
To many boos and jeers.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Right? So, but anyway, we'll see where that goes. So that's another big one. That's another big
I didn't realize there were so many woke people up here. But for people, how do you know about when they're holding these hearings and on what bill? Where would
You can go online.
Where? Online?
You go online to the New Hampshire legislative website, and every committee is listed, and there's 12, maybe 13 committees, and they're all listed, and then you can go and see what's going on, and you can actually watch them online.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah,
Or you can YouTube them later.
Just like here.
Right. So I didn't. I had a lot of people say, you brought it back to what it was about, but I'd like to really see my testimony online. I've testified twice in front of the whole about bills, in front of the whole, once they've come out of committee before they're voted on. That's very nerve-wracking to stand there, a bunch of,
I would
400.
imagine when you got, and this is what gets me. It's like almost half of the reps up there. They're not for the kids. They're not for law. All they're doing is they're just against what people want, what law-abiding, God-loving people want. They're against. If it's not, if it's not lunacy, then they don't want to go there.
And the Democrats vote in a pack.
Yeah.
So we had abortion bills come through our committee, and we tried to negotiate. There's 10 Democrats and 10 Republicans in every committee because we're so evenly matched. If we had a lot more Republicans, we'd have more Republicans in committee. So we had multiple abortion bills that came through, and we tried to negotiate with the Democrats. And we literally ended up sending a lot of them to the floor, asking for them to be killed on the floor.
Yeah.
Well, there were two that were not killed on the floor, which was a shame, a shame. One of them was, the new buzzword is to codify, and
Right, yeah.
that's the new buzzword.
It
That's
is.
the new
Yeah.
buzzword. And that was to a woman's rights, okay? And then the other one was to take all the penalties away from anybody who performed an abortion, no penalties. So let me backtrack a little and tell you that we have one of the most liberal abortion bills in the abortion fetal protection acts in the United States.
Good.
Oh, not good.
Fetal protection.
Well, you may say it's that, but we
That
allow.
sounds good.
It sounds good, but it depends. And it allows an abortion for any reason. You just decided at 5.5 months you didn't want the baby.
Murder it.
Right. So up to 6 months, for any reason,
Wow.
it is legal to have an abortion. Now, I find it interesting that Planned Parenthood will only do abortions up to 15 weeks. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Then from 6 months to 9 months, you can have a medical procedure in New Hampshire for the life of the mother or for a fatal fetus. So if the baby is going to die in utero or the baby's going to die immediately out, you can have a medical procedure. That's very liberal. That's
That is
very
very
liberal.
liberal.
And I don't agree with it, but I know my constituents want, I'm pro-life, but my constituents want the ability to be able to have an abortion. So therefore, I think let's keep it the way it is. Let's not make it worse. I'd love to
Right.
see it made better. I'd love to see it knocked down to 15 weeks. But so we negotiated with the Democrats in committee.
Did they negotiate?
Well, we won't pass this one. We'll
Yeah.
vote against this one then. But two bills got through. That one, the one I said to codify, and then the other one for no penalty. Now, by taking away the penalty, if a doctor has no penalty for performing an abortion, what's to stop abortions being performed up to birth?
Exactly, that's right.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So it basically would allow abortion to take place in the state of New Hampshire up to birth. So what happened, the bills go from the House to the Senate. Last week, the Senate, 14-10, the 14 Republicans, the 10 Democrats, voted to kill those two bills. Thank goodness.
Oh,
Thank
thank
goodness.
goodness is right.
Thank goodness. So that's a lot of the stuff going on. So
And do you ever go on Facebook? Did you ever see Amplify New Hampshire? I don't even think they're more left than California, but I've seen it now for a couple of weeks since that got killed. But they're trashing the governor for he wouldn't sign this abortion bill. See, they don't tell you that the bill was killed. They're telling you the governor wouldn't sign
he
it.
wouldn't sign it because it was killed.
Well, right, but that's what they don't tell you. They think it,
Well-
blame the governor, blame the governor.
What amazes me is the fact that I forget how many Democrats were in the House, but that day. But I think there were like 176, 180 Democrats for the bill to get rid of the penalties. Every single one of them voted in favor of that bill.
Yeah.
Every single one of it. And I came home and I said to my husband, I cannot believe that there was not one person in those Democrats that believed it was okay, that felt that it maybe wasn't okay to have an abortion up to birth. Nobody believed it?
That's what gets me. I know. If they can't make your skin crawl, they got to keep making your skin crawl. That's everything. There's the other thing. Do the books ever come up in
The books, well, they remember I live in Londonderry, so I've got a mouth at the school board too.
Oh, good.
The book, Bedford just had a horrendous. They just right before the March elections, they had a person that pulled books out of the Bedford schools that were. I mean, these books were, I mean, in the middle school, telling young boys how to satisfy other young boys, and
Well, I know it. Like 7 and 8 years old. That's what blows me away. That's not education.
No.
That's
no.
messing somebody up for life.
It is
what it's doing.
I agree with that, but they don't see it that way. And one of the things that I've learned is that it's not about the kids. And
It isn't.
It's not. And you know, we have so many people testify, and we had a bill that was going to make boys use the boys' room and girls use the girls' room.
Right.
And you know, not your gender identity, your biological sex
That's the
identity.
way it should be.
And you know, they kept saying, well, there's more than 2 biological sexes. There aren't. And then they tried to say that, you know, it's no different than how we treated the blacks in the 60s. I said, no, that's not true. That's not true. I can tell your skin color if you're Asian or Hispanic or black as you walk towards me. I can't tell your gender as you walk toward, or your biological sex as you walk towards me.
Especially a little kid. I know.
But I can, if you're dressed up like a woman, there's no way I
Right.
know as you're walking towards me that.
Yeah.
So what's happening in the school, they're using a federal, it's my understanding that they're using a federal law that deals with discrimination. And therefore, to not allow a male who identifies as a female to use the girls' room would be discriminating against them. Or a female that identifies as a male to use the boys' room. So what one of my colleagues said when in one of these hearings to a transgender next to her is, I get that you want to use the girls' room, but how are you going to feel if the whole football team comes walking in it?
Right. I know.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's pushing it a little bit. And I have had 2 parents call me and say, my 6th grade daughter has a urinary tract infection because she will not go to the bathroom in the school because she's afraid of who will walk in.
Well, I don't know. You can't blame some of these kids. I know.
And then I had another one. Oh no, the 6th grade girl was the girl, the first one that she peed her pants on the bus because she tried to hold it the whole time. And then I had another one say a urinary tract infection.
Wow.
So where are the rights for the majority?
It's all, you know, it's what I keep, you know, all this stuff is going on. It's starting from the top, from that joker in the White House.
Yes.
And coming all the way down, and this is what I swear, all the shenanigans is going on because it's just to sort of, it's, you know, it's smoke and mirrors, so people don't realize what they're really doing.
Right.
That's all it is. It's smoke and mirrors, so you don't know all the backdoor politicking that's going on down there and all the wheeling and dealing that they're doing to destroy this country. So they throw all these, you know, let's get this going. With the abortion issue, it's the same thing. The abortion issue, the kids, let's get parents against parents and kids against kids. Absolutely ridiculous stuff.
Well, he just said today that if the bill came to him prohibiting the sports, the men going in sports, he would veto it.
But you know, this is what gets me. Why? Who gets to say, to pick and choose what laws are obeyed and which laws aren't? It's just like, you know, we
Not
have
me.
immigration laws and they just, we don't pay attention to them. So why pay attention to this? You know, I'm sorry. Boys don't belong, or men don't belong competing against women.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Well, it's, you know, it's just right. They're different. But at the same token, I have always said I don't like to see standards lowered so that women can be in something either. You know,
Right.
I do not want a 110-pound, perhaps rescue person coming in to take me out of a burning fire. Give me some big strapping male that's going to be able to throw me over his shoulder and carry me out. So, but it isn't about the kids. And, we have the ACLU coming a lot. A lot of these bills, you have the teachers union.
You know what the
school board.
ACLU really means?
Oh, no.
Against Christians like you and me.
Oh, really? But we have the teachers union coming in, the school board union coming in, the principals union, this union, the ACLU against.
Oh, yeah.
And I finally said to the ACLU, do you ever speak for the children?
No, they don't. No.
And he was just the one that was he was like dumbfounded. He couldn't say that. You never speak for the children. Yeah. And I'm very discouraged by how today it was all about this bill. I'm not going to go into this bill, but it wasn't about the people who would be affected by it. It wasn't about them. It was about other things. But it gets discouraging. There is a lot of finagling that goes on. I'll give you an example. We passed the budget last week. It is not the budget that the Democrats wanted, and it was not the budget that the Republicans wanted. There were things in the budget that I was like, are we really going to build a new hockey rink at the University of New Hampshire? I mean, really? Where are all the people who graduated? Let them build it. But the last minute, there was a lot of negotiations that went on between leadership in the Democrats and leadership in the Republicans. And I understand, and we have a caucus before, and we were both basically said, go for it. If we don't pass the budget, then we have no place at the table when they start passing out the money. So we passed the budget. House HB1 is the financial. HB2 is what I call the pork budget. All the things that couldn't get passed get shoved in there, And
they have those everywhere.
Yeah, they do. But I was a nurse. I was so naive to this. But we had like 20 amendments to this that we had to go through before we could pass it. And, basically, it was negotiated. Now, will that be... Now it's at the Senate.
Did you get anything for us in Londonderry?
No.
No. Good afternoon. Welcome to Norm's Friends. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. It's the energy lady. How are you and how is your guest?
We're doing well. What do you think? Interesting guest, huh? Let you know all the goings on.
And guess what? They have hers and his bathrooms together. I went in a restaurant, and I went to go to the bathroom, and I thought that was very, very wrong about that. Unisex bathrooms.
It is. I agree. It's ridiculous.
But at least you're a woman, an adult, so that's a little different than being a kid.
Not when they mess all over the floor and you stuff in it. Oh, was I mad?
May I tell her something?
Sure.
We were my husband and I were just Sunday. We went into a restaurant after we walked the rail trail, and we went into a bathroom that it was male or female. And I said, that's just fine that they allow the men in, but if they don't lift up the seat and they pee all over the seat, that's no good.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Now I won't go back there.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
That's me. And it doesn't matter if it's Democrat, it doesn't matter if it's Republican, it's everybody's opinion.
That's right.
We all work together.
Exactly right. I'm right with you too. It's like I keep saying, they kept telling you, believe the science, but when it comes to something like that, they throw the science out the window.
Yeah, they better put the right signs up.
Exactly, I know. Maybe you could write them up.
Fast reading?
You can. Yes or no question, energy lady. Yes or no?
Yes.
Well, I know you want a yes, but what's the question? A yes and...
How is everything going to go this week?
That's not a yes or no. That's we'll go, instead of yes or no, we'll go up.
What kind of yes or no do you want?
Well, that's like more of a up or down. So I'm going to pull this card right here.
Oh,
So,
I'm very positive. You know
you
that.
are. Look at this. You get the Tree of Cups. Look at them. They're out there celebrating. So it's how's everything going to go this week? It's going to be fantastic. There you have it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now, see?
Good luck on your trip and everything. Have a safe trip and God bless. And I'm going to let you go so I won't tie up the whole studio.
All right. Thanks, and I'll be
Have a
back
good
in
day.
2
It's
weeks.
a pleasure talking to your
Guest.
guest.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for calling. See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's
So,
your energy lady.
That's the energy lady. See, I told you, you could feel the. Could you not
Oh,
feel
yeah,
that?
she's excited about everything.
I-
So
I
that's
love
great.
her, yeah.
Yep. So what else can I tell you about? It's just a very different world. It is. It's very different world.
What? Good afternoon. Welcome to Norm's Friends. How are you today?
Not too bad, and you?
Mary, tomorrow, let me start right off. Tomorrow, same time, 5 to 6, cruising with Mary. Mary, what's going on?
Yeah, in May, I'm going to let people know tomorrow I am going to have a auction
All right.
for the animal shelters.
Nice.
The money, I keep telling people, the money has nothing to do with me. The money will go either, I hope to make enough for Manchester Animal Shelter and for Bedford, if I make enough.
For who?
So
Who
that
else?
will
Who
be in
else?
May,
Wait, who else?
and-
Who else besides
Huh?
Manchester? Who else besides
Bedford.
Manchester?
If I make enough, I will split it between Manchester and Bedford Animal Shelter.
Oh, good for you. I didn't even know Bedford had one.
Yeah, they do.
All right.
And it's a name, and I know Scotty's there, and he'll agree with me. Norm used to love to do this when he had his fairs going on every year.
Right, that's why
And
we're
they
doing
was
it.
there with him and everything else. So, folks, it will be in Norm's memory that I'm doing it for him, because he used to love to do this. He raised so much money to give to the shelter.
Right, that's why we're doing, myself, Laura, and Sonia are doing it too in
Yeah.
May, the 20th, down at the Manchester Elks, 12 to 4.
Yeah, and everything. I agree with that lady you have. It doesn't matter who you are, Democrat, Republican. I'm a Democrat, but I can go either way when I vote. What's right, it's right. What's wrong, it's wrong.
Exactly.
And I agree. And what's going on with they have the bathrooms. Most of your stores have it now. They have men and women. You can go at the same one. I disagree in that all the way.
So do
a man
I.
is a man and a woman's a woman.
But
They should not. The man should never go into woman. I don't care if either way. A man should go with the men, and a woman goes with the woman. And
exactly.
I told people off because of that.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and this is what makes me laugh. If you go to Europe, there's no, what do you call it, gender-neutral restrooms. It's a men's room or a ladies' room or a homme or a femme. If you're in France, so I know. Mary, any guests tomorrow?
I'm not sure until they notify me.
Ah, okay. Keep it a surprise. And I'd come on, but I'm not going to be here.
I know. Well, you have a good, safe trip.
All right. Quick, yes. Hey, by the way, did you test negative?
Yes, I did.
All right.
And I tell you about the COVID.
Yeah.
Someone had rumors going around that I had COVID twice. Well, they're liars. I've only had COVID once.
Well,
And that's this time here. I got papers to prove I've never had COVID before. This is the first time I've ever had it.
well, you know how they are. You know how they are. If you lived in
Well, the rumors are going to stop. This is my first time. The other times I had walking pneumonia and regular pneumonia twice. It was not COVID, but this time I got it. This is my first time with COVID.
all right. Well, see, now you're all done with that. So ancient history, Mary.
Yeah,
Ancient history.
yeah, and stuff. So the lady, in birth pills, when it comes to birth pills, and then they want to put the abortion pill out. I disagree with that. How many young women will go and take that pill if they pass it? How many will go every 2 weeks? Oh, I think I'm pregnant. We'll take that pill. What does that do to your insides when you take that pill?
They don't tell you that.
There you go. There you go. How many people are going to die taking that pill? Who knows what's going to happen when you take that pill too many times? I say they should not have it. The only way you have an abortion is if the mother is very in danger.
Right, I
and
agree.
Anyway, if there's been a rape or incest, that's the only 3 ways for my mind is saying that's the only way you get an abortion.
That's right. I agree with you, Mary.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah, and congratulations, because I ran for rep myself.
Oh, thank you very much.
Just by a few votes, but congratulations to you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, we'll let you go. We'll catch you later.
All right. Thanks for calling, Mary.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So do you want me to tell you a little bit about the abortion pill?
Yes.
Okay.
Seeing as she brought it up, I'm sure she's more
So
than
it's
interested.
been around, the 2 pills for abortion have been around for, I believe, 20 years, but they were always very highly regulated. In other words, that you had to go to the doctor, you had to have an ultrasound to make sure that you were under 11 weeks pregnant, and then you were given it. And some places actually had required you to come back the next day before you took the second pill. So there's 2 pills. The problem, the issue I believe that people are having with it now is the fact that you can literally get it over the internet. And so an example that I gave in talking to Planned Parenthood is I said, okay, I'm an 18-year-old girl, so I don't need my parents' permission, or I don't need to notify my parents. I'm 18, I'm pregnant, I'm about to graduate from high school, and I've got a full scholarship to go to college, okay? And I'm pregnant, okay? And I don't want to go and have an abortion because I don't want anyone to see me walking into Planned Parenthood.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You never know who's going to be there or see you, okay? So I want the pills.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that I'm under 11 weeks pregnant?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And they said, well, you can have an ultrasound. I said, but do you require an ultrasound? They said, no. I said, well, then how do you know? Well, we ask you when your last period is. I said, okay, I'm an 18-year-old girl, and I'm 12 weeks pregnant. Do you think I'm going to tell you that I'm 12 weeks pregnant when I want to get that pill to get this?
Exactly.
And that's the issue. The issue is that, and that's why when they just had the decision, they just pushed it back to 7 weeks. And I haven't heard what's happened with that since. I've been busy with the State House. But that's the issue is that it's being given out without a lot of medical supervision. When for 4 years in the 90s, I worked at a school, and at that time, girls could have abortions without notifying their parents. Now you have to be 18. Otherwise, you don't have your parents' permission, but the law says you have to notify them. And I had multiple young girls that came in that were pregnant. And most of the time, I could get them to get their mothers involved because I said, that's going to be your mom for the rest of your life. But they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do that. And I couldn't tell their parents. I couldn't tell them. So that's the issue with the pills. The pills have been around a long time. The other thing is that there's been studies going on that if you take the first one and you can reverse it. But Planned Parenthood says you can't. But there are studies saying that you can. It's a mess. So.
Well, naturally, Planned Parenthood says you can't. I mean, that's their bread and butter is.
We had a bill that you had to have 24-hour notice. You had before you had the abortion. That failed. But we had a heartbeat bill that failed.
They should require everyone to watch Unplanned.
Right. Well, I tell you, I had a little video that I showed my husband, There was a gentleman that was he was an ultrasound tech, and he was called in to do an ultrasound in the OR while they did this abortion. Well, he did
They had that on YouTube. I wouldn't watch.
You need to watch it. You need to watch it because it's not the actual. It's animated.
Oh, yeah.
My husband was horrified because it shows them taking the leg and pulling it off, and the baby retracting in pain. Yeah, he was floored that was actually what happened. So.
Well, on plans, the same thing. They were with the vacuum, and you can see the
baby trying
to pull away.
It's interesting. If you want the child, it's a child. If you don't want the child, it's not alive.
Right, I know, exactly.
So
that's what gets me. I know you can't have it both ways. It either is or it isn't.
There's a woman in Florida who is in jail, and she's pregnant. She feels that she should be released from jail because her child didn't do anything wrong.
Right, all right. I read about that, I know.
So, anyway, trying to think. There's lots of things at the State House. There's lots of good things going on. And there's lots of things that I don't feel are good. I think we're going to get it passed that back in 2011, the police officers union did some things that needed to be put back, and people who didn't get what they deserved, and I think that'll pass so that they're able to do that. There are some good things that are going on. So.
Oh, good.
Yep.
So again, if you can tell us, how can people get involved and watch the hearings?
Okay, if you go online and you go on, well, you can just Google New Hampshire legislature, and I don't know exactly what the website is, but they'll come up. So you'll go on and you can actually, and then it says, you can find out who your senator is, who your representatives are, what bills are up there. You can, find out where they are, what was introduced, have they been before hearing, have they been amended, how many amendments there are. And then you can, if you are in favor of a bill, you can actually right then there say, please support.
Oh, okay.
You can have it go to an individual. I get hundreds of emails on my legislative email for and against bills. One of the bills, not in my committee, in another committee they tried to raise the speed limit on Lake Winnipesaukee to 75 miles an hour. And there were like 1,000 emails saying, don't do that. It's funny what floats people's boat, I'm telling you. Oh, that was a pun. And, so you can do that, and you can actually email your rep or your senator saying, please vote in favor of this bill, please don't vote in favor of this bill. Or as I say, you can watch them live, and then they're put on YouTube.
Now, say I'm opposed to a bill or in favor of a bill, and I want to
testify?
Yes.
Okay, all you have to do is find out when the hearing is.
Oh, okay.
You go right up to the State House. You find out what room that hearing is taking place. When you go in, there's a clipboard with, you write down what bill you're there to talk about, and you can say check in favor or not in favor, and then you can say you want to speak or you don't. If you want to speak, there's little pink cards that you fill out who you are, if you're representing, what is the bill, how long you want to speak. Don't put more than 3 minutes, because those of us sitting on the other side do not want to hear it. And you hand that card into the administrator that's there, and she gives it to the head of the committee, the chairperson of the committee. So we had long ones today.
I want to get more involved.
Do get involved. There were over 900 bills for the House.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because, I'm always telling people to get involved, but, and a lot of people, they don't know how, or it doesn't do any good, but it does do good. And what I tell them is that's what, not all, but that's what, some of these will say, like woke politicians, they reverse the roles, right? Elected politicians, I've said it, I don't know how many times on here, about, they're there for us, but they got the attitude now, and it's because people don't get involved. They think we're there for them.
Well-
and that's the way they're treating
Well,
us.
that's at every level of, that's right down to school boards, town
Yeah.
council, all the way up. I voted, there's 2 bills that I voted in favor of, even though I didn't agree with them, and that's because my constituents, or people
Yeah.
in Londonderry, I received a lot of email. And one of them, we had multiple cannabis bills. And the last one that came up, I liked the best. I voted,
Yeah.
and I knew this last one was going to come up. So I voted against all the others. But I
Yeah.
voted in favor of this one,
Yeah.
not because I believe in cannabis for medical reasons.
Right.
The cannabis of today is not, I'm a product of the 60s. The cannabis
And
of
me.
today is not the cannabis of the 60s.
It isn't. You got that.
It is
right.
not the cannabis of the 60s. And I truly believe there were 8 of us that hung around together, girls, and it is a gateway drug for some people.
It is.
If you're using it for recreation, but if you're using it to drown your sorrows or that, it can be a
Exactly.
gateway drug.
Yeah.
But I voted in favor of it because that's what the people asked me for. So I did vote in favor.
See, and congratulations to you for that. Sadly, there's so many that won't. They don't care. They party line. They say they want. They're gonna ram the strew no matter what. They don't give 2 craps about their constituents.
Right.
They don't, because I can't tell you, I call Shaheen's office, they know me. They must know the phone number when I call.
And they answer?
Oh, they cut me off quick though, but they actually cut me off. And Pappas, you just get boilerplate when you call him. It's a joke. That's what I mean. They don't, remember right before the election, they were all over the
All right.
place. I haven't heard 2 peeps from him since and I don't even want to say they want these voting machines. They got to do something with them.
We need to change our election laws. One of our biggest problems with election laws here in New Hampshire is that we have a word in our Constitution called domicile. And that word domicile means that you literally can go to the Holiday Inn, spend the night, and you are domiciled.
Yeah.
I think one of the bigger injustices that we have is that we allow college students to vote from out of state.
They do in mass too.
But the thing of it is, here's my thing. So I live in New Hampshire, you live in Connecticut. We're both going to the University of New Hampshire. I'm paying in-state tuition. You're paying out-of-state tuition. If you are considered a resident and can vote, why aren't you paying in-state?
Oh, now they're all going to be, that'll be coming up for a bill next.
I think they
Right.
tried it. I think
Oh,
they
really?
tried. But you know what I mean? I mean, you are either an in-state resident or you're an out-of-state.
But the other thing I disagree with is same-day registration.
Oh, I do too. I do. We had over 700 people in Londonderry same-day register in November.
Cut it out. See, I didn't know that. I know there was some, but without exception, every single one that I saw was from where.
Well, it's been going on for a long
It
time.
has, but going back to 2016, they saw buses coming up from Mass to Nashua. They had to turn them away.
Right.
And
But little towns, they didn't catch him. They just let him vote.
Wow, speaking of that, because I was working at the airport till COVID. We have 6 minutes left. I was working at the airport until COVID came along. But during the 2016 election, with Trump, I was a bartender there. So this guy sitting at the bar, it was the day of the election, and he's sitting down and he's talking about his sister lives up at, the lake. And he says there's a lot of homes that are owned from out-of-staters. So he said, my sister went to vote, and they said, and her next-door neighbors are from Mass. So they said, oh, your neighbors registered to vote up here. They're going to vote up here instead of Mass. She didn't say anything to him. She went home. She called them. Right? Oh, you voted up here. We didn't vote.
Well, the other thing is, in Florida, I'm
I
sorry.
was just going to say, these, I don't care, crooked, I'm not saying which side's doing it, but, they know they got people to cheat, and they go there, and that's what they do. They go down the list. Oh, this one's not going to be around, and that's how they vote. And here's another thing. Think about this. Why is it if the Republicans are winning and there's only, we'll say, 0.5% of the vote not counted, it's too close to call, but if the Democrats are winning and there's still 15% left, they call it for the Democrat. And so, like in California, the Republicans were winning so many House seats the last election, but too close to call, too close. Some of them 3 weeks until they got a thing. That's because they have to get the voting list after the polls close. All right, who didn't vote and who didn't request a mail-in, and then they have to find ballots and cast them for the Democrat. And until they address that, they're never going to win
I just wonder if we
fairly.
I just wonder if we can ever win a presidential election. I wonder if we can ever win a presidential election.
If it's conducted fairly, but unless they address inequities like that, it's never going to be resolved.
No, it's not going to be resolved. And back in 2020, when in the middle of the night, all of a sudden, the votes flipped. They flipped.
Yeah.
Trump was up by 300,000, something like that, and all of a sudden, boop,
Right.
those votes went away.
Same thing. He was winning in Pennsylvania. The same thing. Boom. Nothing.
Yeah. But there's no problem.
Right. No, I know.
And, we also have a double standard when it comes to doing something wrong. I mean, when Hillary Clinton had voter, finance and issues, they gave her a little slap on the wrist. Well, look what's happening to Donald Trump.
Well, I was listening. I heard, what's his name? Alan Dershowitz just last week. And he says, because he's a Democrat, and he goes up to the vineyard all the time, and he says, I talk to people, and he says, there are all these elitists, and he says, they chastise him because they say he helps Trump, and he says, no, I interpret the Constitution.
Right.
Is what he does. But the other thing, I lost my train of thought now. What he was saying was about Trump. And he says they're so hell-bent on destroying him. He says they've even told me they don't care about the Constitution, and they don't.
No, they don't. They don't. And the thing of it is that, Hillary has done far worse, and Biden has done far worse.
Right.
But
well, Biden, this is what gets me. Biden, they got him on film. If you want that $1 billion, get rid of the investigator that was investigating his son, right? If you want that... I don't understand. It's right there on film, but nope.
But he's got a D next to his name and not an R.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But, people don't want to hear it.
No.
And I love it because, when I come out with this stuff, I get typical Republican. And then I go, I've never been a Republican, nor am I now. Conservative, yes. Although maybe I should become a Republican and run for office.
Yes, you should.
Yeah, really.
You should. But, what happens too is lots of times during a primary, a Democrat will change over to be a Republican, vote for who they think is not going to, vote for the person who's least likely to win, and then turn around and go back to being a Democrat. That's just nasty.
It is, but,
Nasty.
Right. If they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any.
It's a tough world out there. It is.
And you're not kidding. It is. But it's just unbelievable. They don't want to hear it. We have less than 2 minutes left. Just so remind the people who you are again.
Okay. My name is Kristine Perez. That's with a K. Kristine with a K, Perez. I am a state representative from Londonderry, New Hampshire. I'm a freshman, my first year, and I'm making enemies and making friends.
Good for you. I want to thank you very much for coming on as my guest today. And please, I'm David B., the readings guy. Again, 603-404-9338. Any kind of reading you want, give me a call. Please remember 2 things you have to remember. You can't be dumb if you want to be free. And more importantly, you are a winner.